sorry to Sarah for speaking as the whistle went. You lot are sort of deviation blind, aren't you?
I'm just a deviant.
Toby, I'm getting fed up with my dick titles, so I think for you, which basically...
I don't think this is quite the arena to be discussing that.
Which basically means I can't think of a fourth. So,
Do you want me to suggest one?
So I'm going to give you A Fall of Moondust, which is by Arthur C. Clarke. A Fall of Moondust, 1 minute starting now.
The terrible thing about situations like this, when you're being given a book title to discuss, particularly in an environment of science fiction, fantasy writers and fans, is that it really exposes your ignorance. And here we are, having to all admit that we haven't read the specific book, and inherently it makes you feel guilty, and as if you actually should have read these particular titles and much...
Oh, China, yeah.
Thank you.
Someone needed to save you.
Whatever, yes, thank you.
I was going to go for repetition. Did he repeat red?
Yes, he did repeat red.
Yeah, at the very least, yeah.
Okay, so, China, you have 35 seconds on A Fall of Moondust. And of course, you don't have to talk about the specific thing itself. You could talk about moondust falling, starting now.
Moondust is one of those words compounded from two words as...
Sarah.
I'm off my game.
Correct challenge to Sarah, and she has...
I'm ashamed.
Well, you were going to say hesitation, I
I might have been, yeah.
Were you going to
I don't like it when men just take the words out of my mouth. Do you know what I mean, ladies?
Well, it saves time. Oh, come on. Let's split the room.
Nicholas Parsons doesn't get accused of casual sexism either. Well, actually, he should. But anyway, Sarah, you get 26 seconds on the subject of A Fall of Moondust, starting now.
The Fall of Moondust. This intrigues me slightly because given the lack of gravity on the surface of that said object in space above the Earth, it makes me wonder how it can fall if there is no gravitational pull to drag it back to the rock, when in fact it should float away into the rest of that empty void, a bit like this.
Joe!
I've heard that about 15 times in that.
Yes,
it's
okay.
definitely repetition of that.
Total cock.
Gallantry, apparently.
Actually, no. That is one of our little words. Forgive me, I got that all wrong. So, Sarah...
Remember, Joe, size matters.
Sarah gets a point for an incorrect challenge.
What can you do about it, though? That's the problem. What can you do?
Of A Fall of Moondust, starting now.
The Fall of Moondust is another thing that really interests me massively.
Absolutely. Well, bringing up the rear, China Miguel has 6 points.
China has 6.
Then we have a tie between Sarah and Toby, who both have 8.
Sarah and Toby both have 8.
And Joe is in the lead with 10.
And Joe is in the lead with 10. But there's
And
still,
so gracious with it as well.
but there's
No,
still,
I am the very god of humility.
there's still everything to play for, including my sanity. Joe, I'd like you to start on the subject of... Oh, I'll wait. On the subject
Dream for
of...
action.
My favourite doctor. My favourite doctor. Starting now.
My favourite doctor is a phrase that within these environs...
China.
I was first.
She was.
Oh, sorry, yes, so, pardon me. No, I had it at an angle where his was in front of me.
Whatever, sexist.
Whatever.
I'm really sorry about that, Sarah. I hate when men are sexist, Sarah.
There was some slight hesitation there.
Do you think there was some slight... Oh, you're just on her side now.
These are my
Don't hate me because I'm the god of humility. I mean, come on.
Okay, I think we'll go with that. Sarah, you get a point for not being in the lead when Joe is. And you have 54 seconds on the subject of my
Where's my drink?
doctor.
Where's my drink?
And I'm kind of dreading this now. I'm on the subject of my favourite doctor, 54 seconds starting now.
My favourite doctor was a gynaecologist I met back in 1995 when I was still a relatively young woman and in good shape down there. He was a particularly handsome man and, to be fair, quite good with his hands. It's quite hard to flirt with a man who isn't looking at you in the eye, which normally you prefer as a woman because it is...
China.
I just wanted to agree that none of us were going to buzz in.
Is one hand on the buzzer enough?
Sarah, you get a point for an incorrect interruption and continue on the subject.
Oh dear God, this is going to go places only that gynaecologist should.
For the next 30 seconds starting now.
So, my favourite doctor is still, to be fair, that gynaecologist, as much as I...
China?
Repetition of gynaecologist.
Oh, repetition of gynaecologist, okay.
He was hot though.
Point to China, and you have 25 seconds on the subject of my favourite gynaecologist, my favourite...
It's like
I've never seen you go that red before.
It's almost worth it. 25 seconds on the subject of my favourite doctor starting now.
This is a true story. The last time I went to the doctor, she was a tremendously attractive young person, and I was going in to check my blood pressure, and
Joe?
was that a pause? It certainly was. Actually, I was just having a private moment. She was a very attractive young person.
Yeah, that's a point to Joe for a correct thing, and Joe has 14 seconds on the subject of my favourite doctor starting now.
I was very rudely interrupted earlier by Sarah Pinborough when I was expounding to you all that within the...
Sarah?
He's just boring me.
Point to Joe for an incorrect interruption, and 5 seconds, my favourite doctor starting now.
That the phrase "my favourite doctor" would typically be thought of as applying to a famous television series.
Stop!